everyone, this is Speak Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another video for you, and we're quickly going to talk about Peter Jackson and his return to the Lord of the Rings franchise and whether it will have the impacts that many fans are certainly hoping for. Now this was following the recent news announcement from the Warner Brothers earnings call that there are plans for future Lord of the Rings movies in early stages of development. Jackson, alongside his writing partners Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyes, will be heavily involved in the project or projects as desired. The working title for the first movie is Lord of the Rings: The Hunt for Gollum, and Andy Serkis, who famously did the motion capture performance for that character, will be directing as well as reprising his role. Now at this stage, the movie is provisionally planned for release sometime in 2026. So when we look at this news then, does it really merit or warrant the excitement, and can it certainly bring back the cultural impact that we saw from the original 3 movies? Well, I have to be honest here, I'm really not so sure. As with many fans, I absolutely love the Lord of the Rings movies, and for me it still ranks as the greatest cinematic trilogy of all time. An all-round unrelenting fusion of story, character, action, drama, emotion and spectacle. It truly is immersive and elite movie making that hasn't been matched since its release, and something that I'm not so sure will ever be matched considering where we are currently in terms of Hollywood. Having a seismic impact both commercially and culturally, Peter Jackson rightly deserved all the accolades for the trilogy that were thrust upon him. The 3 films themselves very much reinvigorated and revolutionised the fantasy and sorcery genre for the modern age. So should his return really be cause for celebration alongside the same production team that constructed these great movies? Now for many people they would say the answer is yes, but we then have to remember what we went through in terms of the Hobbit trilogy. Released back in 2012 to 2014, centering on the preceding story before the Lord of the Rings, where we focused on the quest for the dwarfs to reclaim their mountain from the dragon known as Smaug. And like many, when we heard the first news of this new proposed trilogy, I was mega hyped, thinking it would be every bit as great as what came before, since Jackson was back in charge and for the most part would be given full control. But the trilogy itself was to an extent a disappointment. Not in the sense that the movies were terrible, but they just weren't as compelling, with at times the story feeling dragged out. The quest for the dwarfs just wasn't in the same league as terms of the Ring of Power and the all-round threat that it posed towards Middle-earth. I do feel that Jackson over-relied on technology when we talk about the CGI and also the proposed frame rates that we saw particularly with the Hobbit movie that really didn't have the desired effects that he was going for. We also know that the trilogy originally was meant to be planned as only 2 films, but then the studio really kind of pressured Jackson into stretching it out over 3 films. And you really get that sense when you watch the trilogy here, and that was one of the decisions that gave the impression that this trilogy was much more of a cash grab and a very easy one at the time, of course. And sadly, when I look at this recent news, it does come across once more as a cash grab. As usual with Hollywood, we go back to proven franchises and IPs rather than trying something original. And when we look at the premise of the story itself, it's going to be placed when Gollum was being interrogated about the location of the ring, and then when he escapes, Gandalf wants to have him tracked down, fearing the information that he has on the ring, and he also gets Aragorn to help find Gollum. So once more, it's that dreaded prequelitis that's plaguing so much of entertainment today, where we see people just trying to find these little gaps in previous established lore and mythology rather than taking risks with new universes. We've seen this type most recently, of course, with the whole Disney Star Wars series and the first 2 seasons of Star Trek Discovery. And yet again, it's just another sign of laziness. I'm not quite sure how the pursuit of Gollum is really an essential story. Certainly not one that's more worthy of a movie. I believe the premise was originated from a fan film that came back in 2019, and there was also a computer game based on this type of storyline. But again, it's not really a narrative that really fills you with a lot of excitement, and it feels that it's not needed. Again, because it's a prequel, we know exactly what happens to Gollum, so there's no real tension or suspense. And to an extent, this was also the problem with Amazon's Rings of Power series, for which this recent announcement will draw a lot of comparison to. Now, to say that that series was divisive would be a massive understatement. Now, I would expect this new project to be far better in standard in terms of its storytelling, but once more, it feels unnecessary just like the Amazon series did. And whereas I think before with the Hobbit films, fans were a lot more accepting of this return, I think this time round, following where we are now in Hollywood and of course the recent Amazon series, I think there will be a bit more skepticism and certainly a bit more of a cynicism around fans surrounding this news. They're not going to be easily swayed as what they were when the Hobbit films came out. And I think overall that's certainly justifiable. Yes, we do understand there is a certain amount of outrage and drama that is certainly exaggerated on the internet. On the other side, we have seen many famous franchises and iconic characters certainly being disrespected and mishandled, and to an extent, yes, inserted with certain identity politics. So I do think it's right that fans should be a bit wary of this news, and certainly that's my position here. And of course, we are talking way off now for over 2 years, so anything can change around from now until the film's release. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some shifting in terms of the project itself. Maybe the title will be changed, maybe the outline will certainly need a bit more inclusion in terms of storytelling elements. And who knows, if the first installment is successful, then maybe Peter Jackson will go on to direct the second one. But as for now, at this point, this news doesn't really excite me. I think overall, the Lord of the Rings as a cinematic entity should just be left alone. There is very little chance, if any, that you will go on to even come close to matching or even surpassing the standard that was set from the original trilogy of films. So I really would rather see Peter Jackson try his hand and give an opportunity on something new and something fresh, rather than going back to this overall story which really isn't needed. So there's some overall thoughts and feelings on the recent announcements of the new upcoming Lord of the Rings movies in the future for 2026. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you have any other movies, television series or topics within the pop entertainment and culture scene that you'd like to see me cover, then also let me know within the comments and I will see if I can provide further commentary for you on that subject matter within the future. Please also hit like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you very, very soon.